Welcome to the Uncontested podcast, talking Oklahoma City Thunder basketball and the wider NBA.
Sam Presti said, lower the hatch, load up the cannon, and get the tank out rolling.
Catch new episodes after each Thunder game and every Sunday night.
This is a house of learning doctors.
Follow The Uncontested on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to catch new content as it drops.
I mean, a cat and a dog connected together?
This is Lou Dort. You're listening to The Uncontested.
What is up? Welcome to the Uncontested podcast. We're part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, the official pod of boomtownhoops.com. Coming live to you guys tonight from the YouTubes. We are live on the YouTubes, but if you are not watching us live and instead listening to the podcast version of this, hey, we still love you guys too. Thanks for tuning in. If you are live in the chat, make sure to drop your questions, get your comments in. We have a section devoted specifically to those chat questions. If you're listening to the podcast version, please go drop a 5-star rating while you're listening. That would mean a lot to us. I'm your host for the evening, Jacob Niffen. I am joined. We've got the magnificent trio here tonight. Kamiar Marabian is to my right.
That would be me. Oh, man, looks like I'm like Tayler. How do I do this? Oh, that's fun. That's
Speaking out the window.
Jake is wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt, and I think that needs to be celebrated. On oh, he has risen. I forgot what today was. I feel like everybody should say that today. Happy Easter, everybody.
Nate in the chat has already said, I respect the no post-game pod last night. Kamiar did post-game pod on the locker room.
About 25 minutes worth of it.
I promise I did.
He just never got the audio email to him. So we did a live post-game on locker room. Just Kamiar never got the audio, which maybe isn't a bad thing after that game last night.
I can tell you, like, just from my notes, what we talked about. Like, we got so bored because it was a special pod too, including special guest Jacob Silva, and like we even have it in the. It was just so boring. So we wrote down thoughts we thought while watching OKC be bad. If you could rename the Thunder, what would it be? Remember at the beginning of last year when we thought this was tanking? Oh, it's not. This isn't bad. Would you still trade for Cantor? And Nurkic has a weird head of hair. So last night's post game was
covered a lot of ground.
Very good.
The beard hair was good, but the head hair was weird. It was whack.
We've got that other voice you hear, Taylor Peterson, along on the pod tonight.
What's up? Also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Dortles.
We need to make a Pokemon crossover. Teenage Mutant Ninja Squirtles.
Yeah, there you go.
Dort.
Dort Basante Dort.
I don't even know what that means.
So basically,
here we go.
Had there was a friend in my Twitter mentions who helped me out with it. But basically, one of the goalkeepers for like Real Madrid or something tweeted out Dort Basante Dort. And it just took off amongst football Twitter. And then some Thunder fans got plugged in and they wanted it to spread. And so Thunder fans started spreading it. And here we are. Bison Dort.
Spread like COVID. Very nice. Ooh. All right, guys. Well, we have a handful of things to talk about. Kind of feel like we're scraping the bottom of the barrel this week. But we're going to make it a fun and exciting pod for you guys. I'm pretty excited to talk about some of these topics. Let's start with the Thunder's weekly review, and what a week it was. The Thunder lost to the Dallas Mavericks on Monday night. On Wednesday, they beat the Toronto Raptors when the Thunder had like absolutely nobody playing. And this is the wild thing. That Thunder team beat the Toronto Raptors. And then the next night, both of those teams played, which was Friday night. That same Toronto team with the same roster beat the Warriors by like 50, while the Thunder, that same Thunder roster, went to Phoenix and got beat by like 40. And so just totally wild. And then the Thunder finished off the week last night, Saturday, getting their asses kicked once more, this time to the Portland Trailblazers. So the Thunder go 1-3, where 2 of those 3 losses just absolutely getting smoked for the Thunder. I think a combined we
tweeted out
like 80 points.
Yeah, they lost by like a combined 87 points in those last 2 games.
They weren't very good.
Yes, it was very bad, and it may. Well, I was going to say it may get worse because Isaiah Roby and Josh Hall are now in concussion protocol. But the Thunder play the Detroit Pistons tomorrow, so maybe it won't be as bad. We will just have to wait and see. But guys, my question for you is there anything that we can take away, or anything that we've learned, or anything that stuck out to you over this past week of Thunder basketball?
Well, Poku didn't play the one game that the Thunder won, so obviously that says a lot right there, right?
There you go.
Hey, but if we want to talk about Poku, 21 points against the Mavericks. He had there it is, 20 points against the Suns. And last night, I can't. Dang it, I lost it. How many points did he have last night?
Not enough. Yeah, somebody's got to score. Somebody's got to score points. I take nothing from this week other than Teo Maladon just like dropping a lot of points that one game. And Svi Mihailuk, we've seen some of the things that they were talking about in Detroit where he was trying some more things with his game. Instead of being an outside shooter, he's trying to like Euro step, but like off baseline, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But he had a really good game against the Raptors. So,
okay, yeah. Speaking of Svi, revenge game for him coming up this week against Detroit tomorrow. Also, we get Teo versus Killian Hayes, which I'm actually kind of excited about, assuming Killian continues to be healthy now that he's finally back from his injury. So that's going to be a pretty fun matchup to watch. But speaking of Svi, that's somebody else I had that I want to bring up, Kamiar, because he has been playing really well, especially this week, given more opportunity with all these injuries and stuff. And you know what? I think what's really impressed me the most, it's just, obviously he's shooting the ball pretty well, but he's doing so much more outside of that, driving to the rim, obviously the monster dunks. I think when I did my post game last week, I mentioned the play where Moses Brown misses the free throw. Svi is actually outside. He's outside the perimeter on top of the key. He sprints down before the ball even touches the ground. He, gets it, jumps up, gets it midair, dunks it, gets an and one, and goes to the line. It's just plays like that you never thought that Svi was capable of, and it's been really cool to kind of see him blossom. I don't know if it's so much the season and the roster and the coaches just gave him the green light, or just the lack of pressure, but whatever it is, he seems much more freed up, and a change of scenery was definitely pretty good for him coming to OKC.
No, I agree, and it feels like Svi's doing some stuff right now, and I'm interested to see what he will look like whenever Shea is playing, whenever Baisley is playing, whenever Dort is playing, whenever you get the main guys back. How does Svi slot in at that point? I think that bench lineup becomes very fascinating with guys like Ty Jerome, Svi Mihailuk, and others that can really space the floor and shoot it. I think that bench unit will really kind of have an identity that will be fun to watch. So, but I want to backtrack, unless Kamiar, did you have anything you wanted to add about Svi?
Hamidou Diallo is gonna dunk all over Svi when they play.
What happens if the reverse happens and Svi
Svi's dunking all over Hami?
That won't happen. Hamidou Diallo is
homecoming.
He's gonna drop like 30 against OKC.
Hey, I'm here for it, man. Stack up those L's.
Give us that 30
those
piece.
L's. Yeah. I want to backtrack a second because we had started there to talk about Poku. And I mean, the Thunder got their asses kicked a couple of times. I've been on the same boat that Kamiar is on, and that somebody has to score the point. Somebody has to dribble the ball. Some of the stuff I've seen from Poku, though, has been intriguing. I think he looks a lot more comfortable handling the ball. He's had some plays that have just kind of been eye-opening to me as far as like the skill is definitely there. And it seems like now maybe the game is slowing down a little bit for him. He's starting to read the game a little bit better. He had, and I talked on this on my Phoenix Suns post game with our friend Mike V. Hill of the Timeline podcast, who covers the Suns. But Poku had a back-to-back possessions in that Suns game in the third quarter. The first one, he drove in and hit like a left to right crossover, and then like behind the back into a step back. And the shot didn't rattle in, but just the move and the fluidity that he had that with, he totally shook his defender. that was impressive. And then the next time down, he came down and he threw like an off the bounce, one-handed cross court pass through traffic that hit like a shooter right in the pocket. And it's those signs that look really, really positive to me, right? He's got the balls to try that kind of stuff, but it also looks fluid. The skill is there. Mike brought up a really interesting point to me that I really like. With young guys, it's not as much about making the shot as it is getting to the right place and being able to get the shot off, right? Like if you can get to your spot, the finishing will eventually come. The touch on the jump shot will refine over time. The strength at the rim will get better over time. But being able to make the move and get to the spot on the court is maybe more important than actually finishing the play right now for these 19-year-olds. And I feel like I saw a little bit of that from Poku this weekend. So I kind of want to get your guys' thought on that as well, on kind of what the growth you've seen from Poku is, what we saw this week as he's been featured a little bit more, but also just really from January 1st to now, how much Poku has changed and grown.
With your can on camera. I was wondering what that was.
Yeah.
So
you go ahead, Taylor. Yeah.
I think you nailed it, Jacob, when you said that the game seems to be slowing down for him, because it absolutely is. There's things that you can really take from his play over the past couple of weeks that I think will translate and only improve as he continues to get more and more comfortable, more experience, and continues to bulk and get stronger. I really like Mike's point about finding the spots and getting to his spot, especially at such a young age, and playing against guys who are veterans who are more developed than he is physically. I think that's really important and just kind of shows his potential to continue to grow. I think that's going to be huge. Also, a stat that we haven't even mentioned yet, which was pretty wild when I saw this. From Thunder PR, Maladone and Poku are the first pair of teammates in NBA history under the age of 20 to score 20 plus in the same game. Just pretty wild, especially the Thunder playing that many young players in a season. I mean, obviously we knew that kind of coming into this season, but just kind of thinking back on it, that's pretty crazy to think. And the fact that both, Teo dropped 33, which I know we'll get to him, and Poku's dropping 20 is pretty impressive. But we are seeing some consistency there from Poku as well. His rebound numbers are staying around the same. Actually, I had a pretty good shooting split that I was going to talk about post All-Star break, just kind of show his numbers. 11.6 field goal attempts post All-Star break compared to 5.5 pre. Obviously, that confidence and more opportunity has a lot to do with that, but the confidence is definitely there. Everything looks more fluid, just like you mentioned, Jacob. And to that point, 36% from the floor, which I know isn't great, but compared to 24.7% prior to the All-Star break. And on almost 6 more attempts, that is pretty impressive. 1.8 three-point attempts compared to, three-pointers made. 5.6 three-point attempts compared to 3.3 pre-All-Star. Just the confidence is there. He's shooting the ball more. Again, some of that's more opportunity, but we're starting to see them go in at a little bit of a higher rate. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see where Poku ends the season, I think. Does he kind of stay where he's at right now? Does he continue to make small improvements, through these last couple months of the season? And we really see the big leap or see a leap in the offseason. It's going to be interesting to watch.
He's definitely a fun guy to watch. I mean, but his jump shots bother me so much, like a lot. You guys ever you looked at, you're let's say you're writing a paper and you ever need to use not parentheses. Oh yeah, parentheses. You know how it's like shaped kind of like
that's what I was gonna say. He looks like a C
when he shoots the ball. Yeah, when he shoots the ball, he looks like a parentheses mark.
What a comparison!
Because he's like that,
Yeah,
that. And his legs do the same thing. Yeah, it's incredible.
He puts his legs out in front of him when he shoots.
It's almost like a right angle sometimes. Yeah, it's almost like a right angle. It's pretty weird, man.
He definitely needs to get some legs in his shot. I think when we see his shot go in, it looks pretty pure. It's because he's getting more legs into that shot. That's something he definitely needs to work on with his size. I know it's kind of hard but as he continues to develop strength, I think we'll see a little more more consistency heading into next season. And
I want to send that man to Eastern Europe and learn from Dirk how to shoot a basketball for a tall man.
Now, you imagine Poku doing one-legged faders in the paint.
Dude, sign me up. I have not done this. Maybe I'll make a little video this week or something if I can find the time. But I'd be interested because Kamiar, while I agree with you where the form is kind of similar and it's not the prettiest thing in the world, it feels like he gets a lot more arch on the shot now compared to the beginning of the season. Remember, he was like, the shot was very flat and like right to the rim. It feels like now it gets a lot more lift on it. And now it doesn't have Lou Dort lift.
It's like a banana shot.
Yeah.
It's like the trajectory is before was just a straight line. Now it's like a banana. Right?
Yeah, I like that. I love your analogies tonight.
I know, really.
Derek Fisher's they almost touched
Derek Fisher's might have gone higher than Lou Dort's, and Lou Dort shoots that thing freaking high. Yeah.
Hey, man.
But I'll try to find a video of Poku shooting a 3 in like January and then Poku shooting a 3 now and see if we can measure the difference in like the angle. Now, I'm not going to do like some stupid like math video that's like, oh, well, if you look at the circumference of the round angle of the square root of the pi, but just a visual, right? I think we'll see a difference. And I'm really excited to see what happens with him. Like you said, Tayler, over the off season, we all agree the dude needs to eat like 10,000 calories a day. He needs to bulk up. He needs to just lift weights nonstop all summer long. But I'm excited to see where he gets. I wonder if he's going to stay in Oklahoma City this offseason or if he's going to go home to Serbia. That'll be fascinating.
That will be interesting. That's a good point.
One other guy we got to talk about. Well, two other guys that I wanted to talk about real quick. First one, we got to mention, Kami already touched on it a little bit, but Teo going for tying a Thunder rookie record. With the one and only Russell Westbrook for most points for a rookie in Oklahoma City history. What did you guys think of Taylor? What did you think? Because we all think it was freaking awesome. But what was like the most impressive thing of Teo's 32-point game down in Phoenix?
The threes. Is he gonna take over that category of scoring the most threes in a Thunder rookie year that somebody just took the other year?
That is a great question. I'll have to look that up.
Question.
Who took that? Who took that? Was it because it was hard before, and then it was Abrinas?
Was it Lou?
And then was it Lou?
Oh, it wasn't Lou.
I was gonna say
was it Abrinas?
Abrinas feels like too long ago, and Abrinas didn't play a whole lot his rookie year.
Yeah, somebody
it wasn't Beasley.
Somebody scored the most threes for a rookie campaign.
For Thunder rookie, I remember this, and
or did that just happen this year already?
Yeah.
No, who was it? We'll figure it out on the pod because right now this is great podcasting of us just talking about things that we don't know. Yeah. But no, Kamiar, I agree. His threes were very impressive.
What's the meaning of
7? I think
he followed it up with a 1 of 7 night, but yeah, he's and I'm looking it up right now. Let's find it. Teo Maladone. Up to 37% from 3 on 4.7 attempts a game for a 19-year-old. That's pretty damn impressive.
He's so stiff. Like he looks like he looks like he's playing like a Ken doll out there. Like he doesn't really use his knees or his elbows. It's just like very stiff basketball player.
Teo, the Ken doll.
It's uncomfortable.
Roby, the Cabbage Patch Kid.
Don't you just feel like he looks uncomfortable when he plays? Like it feels like very robotic. I mean, I guess it makes sense considering he had to play a very mature game of basketball at such a young age in Europe. But it just looks like do like wear like even wear a sleeve or something. Wear something and like do something interesting. This is like he looks like early NBA 2K graphics.
Yeah, I said this a lot. His game is also very conservative.
It's like very old man game.
Yeah, he's just like very conservative. I'm not going to mess anything up. But the thing that impressed me, I think, the most in that Phoenix game, the threes were impressive. He took 10 free throw attempts. He was getting downhill. He was getting to the basket, and he was getting fouled, which is, I think, something that you really like to see from a rookie, right?
Well, and we talked about that with Shea last season, obviously not as a rookie, but something we wanted to see this year, specifically with him kind of being the focal point of an offense, is like you said, Jacob, that next step he really needed to take was getting to the line, which he's done more this season. Seeing Teo do that at such a young age, obviously was a big thing. And not only 10 10 free throw attempts, but also shot the ball 18 times, which, like, to Kamir's point, I was going to bring that up as well. We don't see that from Teo, to the point that even Daignault in some of his post game pressers has mentioned wanting to see Teo be a little more aggressive, and how the coaching staff has encouraged him to be. So when we have all these injuries, all these guys sitting, like Shea, Lou, even Baisley, for Teo to come out there and continue to be aggressive, shoot the ball 18 times, get to the rim, getting to the rim, but getting to the free throw line 10 times, like Jacob mentioned, I think that's a lot of progression there. So another guy I'm really excited to kind of watch as he has more and more opportunity. Does he continue to make smaller leaps throughout the rest of this season? Do we see more of a bigger leap coming in the offseason? How does the growth look for all these guys? Because, we mentioned this a lot in the past. Obviously, the growth isn't linear for each player. So it's going to be really interesting to continue to watch. But Tayler was a ton of fun, especially in that Phoenix game. But all week, just continuing to create for his teammates and just continuing to watch him be more and more aggressive, I think, each game.
No, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see where these guys end up at and how they finish the season, and how they come back in season 2, and where they look 5 years from now. So speaking of that, I think that's a great transition point. I wanted to talk about what I call the OKC development factory, because I feel like we see this time and time again. The Thunder, now they don't hit on all of them, right? Terrence Ferguson is a prime example, but especially this season, we're seeing the Thunder take a lot of these guys. Last season, we saw the same thing, and really develop them and turn them into something like incredibly productive. And so I wanted to ask you guys about the way the Thunder have been developing guys. And my first point was Poku and Teo. We've been talking a lot about them anyways. But what are some things that you see? I don't care if it's Poku, Teo, Moses Brown, if it's Kenny Hustle. What are you seeing from some of these Thunder players that just really stands out to you as far as development?
Defensive intensity. That's something that doesn't just take natural ability. It's something that takes a lot of coaching and a lot of discipline, and teaching that discipline, especially like the kind of defense that OKC wants to play, which is very aggressive. They're not trying to switch off ball that much, but they do when necessary, and not jumping at 3-point shooters. I feel like this team defensively, like, they're a young team, and they haven't really jumped at many 3-point shooters as I thought they would this year. They've actually played really well defensively just by hustling their asses off. And so that's something that you can admire, I guess, about the OKC culture and staff, is the reason why they're able to stay in these games, except, the last 2 games when you have like 7 guys available and most of them are under the age of 20, that you still have that defensive intensity that can keep you in a lot of games unless somebody's getting hot.
I like that. I think just to add on to that as a whole, just like the Thunder culture in general, and how these coaches are putting these players in the right situations. They aren't just, throwing out Poku with a bunch of bigs and telling him to run point guard or something like that. They're willing to get these players outside their comfort zones and develop them. But at the same time, it's all within the system. And I think that is really important. It leads to the confidence that some of these players have, and that we're continuing to see some of their progression. I think one player specific example that we haven't mentioned yet, just because I know he had kind of a rough last 2 games against Phoenix, and then obviously got concussed against Portland last night on Saturday night, but Isaiah Roby. And that was a player, I talked about him in my post game this past week. We all have talked about him recently, how back preseason we all were like, cut Roby and keep Frank Jackson. And he has proven us wrong. Because not only and it's not just he's having good games and just doing things on it, like you guys have said, a team that he has a lot more opportunity to showcase these things, but he's doing it consistently. We continue to see him be more aggressive. Like, I think it was that game last week, but it might have been the Raptors game where he only had I think he only had like 5 or 6 points on limited shot attempts in the first half. Comes out in the second half and just absolutely tore it up. We saw him do like a nice spin move to the basket. He has super crafty finishes, but he's also finding teammates. He's had some really nice passes down low to other bigs. A lot of people say that Isaiah Roby's primary position might be like a backup center or small ball 5. I completely disagree. I think he's perfect at the power forward. Could even see him playing like some limited small forward minutes, which seems crazy, but I think he possesses that versatility, and seeing his 3-point shot continue to progress has been really good as well. So Isaiah Rowe is kind of a player specific example.
When did he get concussed in the game? I don't remember
I didn't
getting
either.
concussed. Well,
I
it
mean,
might have
Josh
been like
Hall.
it had
Yeah,
to have
right.
been like at the beginning of the game because this man was terrible last night.
True.
He was
True.
awful. He had like 8 turnovers. He was
Didn't know
just
what the hell was going on half the time.
like I was like me and Silver were looking at each other like this guy is playing horrible but bad.
He was
Like,
out of it.
no wonder they're down
and-
like 40 points.
It
Yeah.
probably happened when none of us were watching and we were watching Jalen Suggs instead.
Mm.
That
might have been what
wild.
happened.
What a shot. And
Yes,
what
that
a
was
sequence he had
fun.
in the second half. I won't take
Like
us down that rabbit hole. But
I just jumped up and I started screaming and doing
yes,
the worm.
I did too. I was outside and I was like, I totally just woke up my neighbors. Like,
It was very impressive. Here's my thought kind of on the Thunder development this season. And I'm going to compare it to seasons prior. So I don't even remember how long ago this was. It feels like forever. The Thunder were headed towards the playoffs, had title aspirations, and wanted a more experienced player off the bench. So they went and got Karan Butler.
Mhm.
And they slid Jeremy Lamb down to the end of the bench and did not let him get that experience throughout the rest of the season, right? The focus for the team then was, what can we do to get as many W's as possible? The focus this season, and Mark Daigneault and the front office and the coaching staff and the players have talked about it, they go into every game with this 0-0 mentality, right? They go into every game, how can I be a better basketball player than I was last night or 2 nights ago? It's very clear that the goal this season is not how many games can we win. The goal is how much growth can we see from our players, right? The focus and the attention has shifted in the coaching staff and in the front office. And I think that's just natural when you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Al Horford versus Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
Right.
That attention is going to shift, right? And so I think part of it is just opportunity as well, but you can't discredit what this coaching staff has done. I think Mark Daigneault has been incredibly impressive this season. I think his staff has been awesome this season. Now it's going to be interesting once the Thunder get past the development stage and get into the winning stage. What does Mark Daigneault look like? But as of what they need for right now, I think Daigneault has been very impressive, and his staff have done a tremendous job in just keeping these guys grounded and keeping their focus on growing instead of the final score on the scoreboard.
Absolutely. I like that a lot. And even games where they win, you heard Daigneault, still mentioning things that they can improve on and work on. And I'm with you. I think he's done a great job. In fact, I'm trying to remember who it was. Here a couple weeks ago, some national media person, maybe it was John Hollinger at The Athletic, stated, after one of those games that OKC won, I can't remember which one it was, but probably similar like to the Raptors game, a game where a lot of people didn't think they had any business winning. They come out, play the right way, work their butts off, and had some big performances from random players, and they end up winning the game. And somebody tweeted out that Mark Daigneault should obviously maybe not win Coach of the Year, but his name should be in consideration. He should at least be getting some acknowledgement just based off the work that he's done with these young players and the development. So I'm with you, Jake. Speaking of development, it's going to be interesting to watch Mark, Coach Daigneault, and his staff as a whole, Mike Miller, all those guys continue to develop as a team, works its way back towards contention. Because you still have to balance the player development. You're still going to have these young guys like, whoever the Thunder drafts over these next couple of drafts, but Shai's getting older, and you're going to want to be bringing other players in, more experienced players in around them to help them continue to compete for the playoffs and eventually a championship. So you're going to have to balance both the player development and in-game situations. And so that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Definitely.
I guess we got to see it some with OKC Blue, and he did a good job there.
Mm-hmm. Kamiar, were you about to say something?
No, so I thought of something I was going to say, and I said, you know what? I'm going to save this for later because it fits more in something else. So yeah, I got something on the brain, but I'm going to keep it and save it for later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of development and how well the Thunder have been able to develop these young guys, this leads me to, is this going to shift the draft strategy? are the Thunder going to be as obsessed with top 5 picks when they feel so confident in their player development that, let's say the Thunder end up with like pick number 7 this year? Do they decide to be less aggressive in trying to trade up and give up a ton of future assets because they feel so confidently about their player development? Kamiar obviously pretty adamant.
Nah. At the end of the day, they're trying to get the best player, and then hopefully they can also elevate that best player's, abilities and through their regimen and training, whatever. I hope they're not going to take a project. They're trying not to take a project this year. Think about it. The last player that OKC drafted, actually drafted, not signed after the second round was over, like Lou Dort, actually drafted, that was ready to play pretty well immediately. Would it be Mitch McGary?
I'd have to look back at the draft list.
It's somewhere around Mitch, right? It's somewhere around Mitch. He was a double-double guy the first time he came out, a couple times, right? We called him McDouble. Then
all I remember is he ran Big Baby Davis into the dirt.
Yeah, literally the first game there, Big Baby's back. He couldn't take it anymore. It's his sciatica. But yeah, Mitch McGary, he ran off 2 straight double doubles to start his career, and he could have had a really good career if he would have laid off the weed. But
stay off the weed.
He's in outer space somewhere. Don't think he's come down yet.
Maybe at a bowling alley.
Yeah.
So I think you're right, Kamiar. Imagine getting one of those. Back when we did the podcast with Tyler Parker, my whole conspiracy theory about teams purposely trying to let the Thunder win.
The cabal of teams.
That's right. So that way, that Sam Presti doesn't get a Cade Cunningham or Jalen Suggs in his program and in his culture, because they're going to develop him and do a great job with it. But knowing Sam Presti, he's been scouting these guys. The whole organization has been scouting these guys for a long time, even prior to this season. He probably has a pretty good idea of who he wants, and when he does want somebody bad enough, I think we're going to see him go after them, 100%. It's just really going to be interesting. A lot of that still depends, and this is super obvious, but on the Thunder's draft position come draft lottery, which we found out it's going to be June 22nd, I believe. Yeah. So that's nice that we have a date. That'll be fun. I'm going to be super nervous that day. But I think Sam's going to be aggressive regardless.
Do you know how Sam Presti found Cade Cunningham?
What do you mean?
How he first, he was one of the first people to actually get on Cade Cunningham's kind of the whatever his scouting tape. Did you guys know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he found him when he was his substitute teacher in kindergarten. He was dunking on everybody. He was wild.
I hate you. You totally derailed my thought process.
Isaiah Roby was there too. He looks the same. It's weird.
He looks the exact same.
Well, also speaking of draft picks, one thought that I've really tried to avoid because I don't think it will happen. But the more I think about it, in reality, I don't know shit, right? We have no clue what the Thunder will do. I think a lot of us on this podcast have said the most likely outcome with all of these draft picks is that the Thunder are going to package picks to move up in the draft and get guys they want.
Nick says we can't do that.
I don't think that we are going to package picks to go get the next disgruntled star. But for argument's sake, let's say the Thunder do decide to go and get a more established player to put next to Shea to see what happens. That Shea pushes the timeline of this team forward a little bit. I wanted to ask you guys, as of right now, what are some logical fits, players that may end up not wanting to stay with their team long term, that the Thunder could go and trade 4, 5, 6 picks for to pair with Shea now to be a much more competitive basketball team? Are there any players that come to mind?
We've talked about John Collins already from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be fun. He would have somebody to actually lob the ball to.
Right.
He's a much better version of what you want Baisley to be, if you think about it.
Yeah, my worry with John Collins, I think it would be fun. How far does that move the needle? How much higher does that make your ceiling? right? Like
a lot higher than Baisley's ceiling.
I agree, but like, are
Regular
you giving
season,
up
yes,
like 4
but-
picks for him?
Right. Are you that much closer
Hell
to a
no.
championship? And
You're closer to a championship. Well, how far are you emptying the treasure trove for John Collins? Christ.
No, well, that's what I'm asking. Yeah, I don't know.
Not that much, because if you could somehow maneuver and get like John Collins and Jonathan Kuminga or somebody that can like play those stretch positions, then that would be like ideal. But you have to bang on it in the lotto this year.
Mhm.
So I mean, I wouldn't offer like more than 2 picks for John Collins. He's not established and he's not a max player in my opinion, but Drew Holiday is today.
Yeah, shout out to Drew. What about? Oh, did we lose Tayler?
I think so.
I think we lost
He
Tayler.
said it froze.
Yep, his computer froze.
He's
Oh well.
frozen with a smile.
I do not know if anybody else can still hear us because Tayler was the one streaming. So
We're gonna find out.
this might be fun. If you guys can still hear us, please hit us in the chat so we know. Kamiar, what about Karl Anthony Towns?
I would hate Karl Anthony Towns in OKC. Why would you like Karl Anthony Towns?
The idea, people are telling us we're still good, so we're going to keep the recording going. He's fascinating, but the price he's going to come at and the age that he's already at, I'm just not a fan. I think he would cost too much money. He would cost too many draft picks.
He sucks on defense.
And again, yeah, where is he raising your ceiling to? I think if we're talking year 3 Karl Anthony Towns, I think this is a different discussion.
It's
But
like
it's like at what point does a player become too ingrained in the culture that they're in and get too far into their career that you cannot course correct, right? I think year 3 Cat, you could get him in Oklahoma City and turn him into a defensive player. I don't know if you can do that now.
to me, Karl Anthony Towns is and always was, and this might be a hot take,
Oh, I'm ready.
a souped up version of Jahlil Okafor.
Oh, that does sound kind of hot.
Like if you took Squirtle and just for somehow put Blastoise's armor all over somebody else, I don't know. Basically you're making them super amazing. But yeah, man, they play no defense. Cat is so terrible on defense, and the fact that they have D'Lo on that team not also playing defense, he's not playing right now, anyways. But they're
Playing
just
really bad defense right now.
They're just so bad, and I would never want Cat on this team. He's an attitude thing. Like, not that OKC's culture couldn't fix it because it's Minnesota. Like, can you imagine like going to work every day where you suck and also it's freezing outside? That sounds like the worst case scenario, but that's what they do every day.
Yeah.
So I would hate to be a Timberwolf, and I would hate to be Cat, and I would. Well, I mean, like, but what are other guys that you could even pair with Shea? You would want Sabonis back, but he loves Indiana.
Yeah, and I don't know if you could get Sabonis back. People are always going to say Brad Beal. I don't think you want to get a guy that, and Brad's not old, but I don't think you want to. Yeah, I think you want to get someone closer to Shea's age, and I don't know which of those players are going to be available. And so that makes it pretty interesting. Do we have Tayler back now?
back. That was
There we go.
It was.
He is back.
I can't believe the streak. Man, that's nice.
Oh, no.
Let me ask you this. I don't think this guy would become available. But let's say you had to trade 5 firsts to get him in some sort of, I don't know, sign and trade type of deal or trade and extend type of deal. What do you feel about Trae Young?
No, gross.
Ooh.
Absolutely not. No
Really?
chance in hell. No, I don't want Trae Young on the team. You think this man, like, come on, dude. This dude, like, he is selling the NBA on the idea that he is Steph 2.0 with worse hair and better ankles. And like he can't play defense because he's just so tiny. And even if he puts on muscles, like he's just a very skinny guy. He's never going to get jacked. He's always going to be a lot smaller than Shea physically and in stature. You imagine if he had to guard somebody like Jaylen Brown, who's also a guard or / forward, it's not going to work out well. And that's just the 3. This guy can't guard bigger point guards in the NBA. Like the NBA is it's always been heading towards bigger, stronger, athletic point guards, and he's does not have a place on the floor. So anytime you go to the playoffs, unless he's just like lights out, like Steph has been, then he's gonna get smoked. I would hate for Trae Young to be back in OKC. I mean, like it'll be fun with the hometown vibes, whatever. And he would sell jerseys, but no.
I don't think you're winning with it comes back to the championship thing, right? Like, I don't know if that makes you more of a championship contender. Like, in theory, I think Trae and his elite shooting next to a player like a creator like Shea, and having Trae, another ball handler who also can create for teammates, and like I said, just has that almost unlimited range, is like super fun and could really work well together. But Trae's personality kind of hinders all that. Like, for example, I know the Hawks are doing a lot better recently, but that slow start early on, like, I think a lot of that comes down to Trae still just wanting to be the guy and not really trusting in his teammates. There's a lot of things about Trae's game that don't really get me super excited. So I say no about that. Now, one guy I was thinking of before my computer decided to restart. Did you guys mention Karl Anthony Towns?
Yeah.
Yes, we've had the cat talk and we all said no.
Oh, see, that one's kind of fun, but I do worry about the injury history there.
Let me throw another big at your guys' way. Matches Shea's timeline. I don't know what you have to give up 4 picks for this guy, maybe. Extension eligible this summer. Thunder just played against him. DeAndre Ayton.
Ooh, that's interesting. Except the Suns are going to want players back and not picks, I think, unless they have a target in mind that they can immediately use those picks to get a player around CP3, Booker, etc. That's interesting.
Not a fan.
I kind of like that, but
I just feel like in the modern NBA where you play basically positionless basketball, you can't have a dude that's like a pure center. You can't have a dude that's like a pure point guard shooter. You need to have somebody that's like a 3 stretch 4 that's athletic. Somebody like a Chris Bosh, or like not exactly like Chris Bosh, but somebody like that, or the guy Siakam, that guy that can play like that, or somebody like that. Of course, like, or you got dudes like Jaylen Brown, who's like athletic and strong enough to do things. Jason Tatum. Dudes like that are long, athletic, and play defense and can shoot the ball well. You're going to need a wing, because that's just how the modern NBA is. The old school NBA was, you have a guy that can hold the ball, and do you have a guy that can play down low? Now it's, hey, do you have guys that can do a lot of things that are super long and athletic, instead of like the John Stockton, Karl Malone days are over. The Kobe, Shaq days are dead. You can't have one small guy and one massive guy. You have to have a lot of tweeners that kind of make the game go.
Yep. Now, one franchise, I keep thinking about guards, kind of to Kamiar's point there. I know a big might be ideal to trade for if you're going to make that kind of trade to pair alongside Shea. But I keep thinking about another ball handler to pair alongside him. Really, ever since we got to watch him alongside CP3 last season, and then seeing the leaps that Shea's made himself. This is a guy who isn't disgruntled, just signed a big extension, I believe. But it's the kind of franchise that would be willing to take Presti up on an offer like that. And I think of De'Aaron Fox and the Sacramento Kings.
I kind of like that a lot. 2
Fox
Kentucky
and
guys. Kamiar just doesn't like any of these. Kamiar's like, dude, screw them all.
We want to build through the draft too, but just hypothetically.
Just garbage. Like De'Aaron Fox I like him as a player, but I don't want to spend several draft picks on a guy. Like,
that's where it comes down,
man.
No?
I'm not spending draft picks on these guys. I'd rather them just be awful and get those guys later down the road.
Yep.
Like, unless
it's the one thing you can control. I also like the idea of holding on to all those draft picks, because if you are able to find a team in the top 5 this draft or maybe next draft and target a player that you really, really want, that could really, set this franchise up long term, alongside Shea. Like you can package those draft picks and move up. It's just so tough, because I feel like any team who secures a top 5 pick in this draft, is there even an asking price, or they pretty much just say, look, I know you have all these picks, but we kind of want Jalen Green or Kuminga, and it obviously Suggs and Cunningham. I don't think anybody's trading anything for, or neither of the first two teams are going to trade.
I just don't want this team to fall into Portland's Dame and CJ redundant backcourt sort of thing where they both both have one strength. And then you just find they're trying to be relevant for the rest of your career. Dame's never going to win one in Portland. Neither is CJ, and nobody else on that team's going to win one. Yeah, I just don't want to land that there. And it's you have to have your other player be a wing. You need this. The league is starved for wings, and that's another reason why it makes this draft so great, is because there's plenty of wings.
Yeah. Two thoughts real quick. First on Tayler. I mentioned this the other day on Twitter, Tayler, but a ton of people keep telling me it doesn't matter if the Thunder don't land their own pick in the top 5. They could just trade up into the top 5. Let's say Detroit gets the number 1 overall pick, and you go to Detroit and you say, Detroit, we will give you 7 firsts for the number 1 pick. Detroit is hoping that one of those 7 picks becomes a player like Cade Cunningham. So why would they not just take Cade?
Yeah.
So unless I don't think that's going to work out.
Well, I can get a Money Bates in the next draft, or Chet, whatever his name is, and also have these other 6 picks. They'll think about it, but even then, I'm with you, Jacob.
I don't see that happening.
Agreed.
Kamiar, the last name we'll mention on our Should the Thunder trade for a current player list here, since you have poo-pooed on every single one. I love it. Keep the brand strong, my brother.
I hope it's Harrison Barnes.
Harrison Barnes. Steph Curry.
Last one before we move on. I know you're going to say, yes, the Thunder should trade for this one. I want to figure out how many picks you say you would give up.
Oh, Julius Randle.
No, not Julius Randle, but Kamiar would be like, shit, all 37 picks, send them over. You've already said his name a handful of times. What if Boston just got the itch to do something different and gave up Jalen? I keep saying Jalen Green, Jalen Brown.
It's another color.
The colors mixed up. Yeah.
Yep.
Jalen Brown. That Boston starts secretly gauging value for Jalen Brown this summer. How many picks are you comfortable with giving up to put him next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Shai Dort and Jalen is a formidable defensive team.
I would definitely include at least 3 first rounders. And maybe maybe a pick swap or 2. And then I would just slap a couple of second rounders on there for good luck.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Throw in a Baisley,
and then of course they would want some probably want some player compensation too. So you can go ahead and give them Bays and pretty much everybody else on the roster that I don't care about.
What if it included Dort?
No, you make that executive decision. You do.
I think so as well.
Because Jalen Brown is another wing who I honestly I didn't think he was going to be that great coming out of Cal. I thought he would be good, but not as good as he has been. He's been a pleasant surprise, and I think he could really come into his own on his own role without Jason Tatum being the guy over there.
I agree. I was about to say, especially this season, and I know Tatum's battling a lot. I think still in a vacuum, Tatum's the best player and will be long term. But Brown's really taken some big steps, and just with Tatum battling injuries as well as COVID, and the after effects that he's had of COVID long term, Brown has kind of been more consistent for them this season. I think
it's a total change of pace.
Better. Right.
So here you go. Yeah, Brown is playing the exact same minutes that he played last year, 33.9 minutes per game. But this season he's at 24.5 points, up from 20 last season. His total rebounds have taken a small dip from last season, about half a rebound a game. He's at 5.7 right now. His assists have gone up from 2.1 to 3.6. His shooting percentage has stayed the same. His 3-point percentage has ticked up 1%, even though he's taking almost one more 3 per game.
What's that percentage?
He's at 39% from 3 this season.
Get
Not
that
as good
man
as
in
Shai.
OKC,
That's good.
man.
Yeah, he is.
What's his free throw percentage? OKC's one of the worst right now in free throws.
That's true. You had that stat yesterday.
Free throw percentage, he is a 76% free throw shooter.
Him and
for
Shai
his
need to get
career,
together.
70%. Yeah. You know what excites me is whenever I watch Kuminga, I see a lot of Jalen Brown. I see a lot of Jaylen Brown and
Except Kuminga's bigger, right? Like
I think he might be. Jalen's big though. Jalen
That's a good
is.
comparison.
Well, I mean, Kuminga's
6'6",
taller.
225. I think Kuminga might be closer to 6'8".
Solid.
So yeah, some good stuff. All right, guys. Well, let's move on to the best part of the podcast. Time for my favorite, the tank meter.
Loser! You're a loser!
And that means that the number one pick in the NBA draft goes to
Kamiar,
The
we're coming
Oklahoma
your way.
City Thunder.
Kamiar, we're coming your way first. If the tank is full, the Thunder are full on tanking. If it's empty, they are pushing for the playoffs. After what you've seen this week, where's the tank at?
You know, Twitter has gone radio silent since the Thunder have been losing 40-point games and almost a 50-point game. They just dodged the bullet, 48 points, last night. That was
Worst
a great
loss
game.
in franchise history, I believe.
Yep, that's
Wow.
great. It's fantastic. Yeah, the tank is full, and they are blatantly tanking. And what's interesting is that they're running out of players with these concussed guys. And so, Muskie's suddenly going to get better so he can suit up for a night, or Shea's going to suddenly have a healed foot for an evening and he's going to be just fine. But then they're going to be like,
it flared back up.
yeah,
Nice
just
and
shutting
gone,
this
baby.
bitch down till May 1st. Sorry, guys. He had one go at it. So they're going to have to start not faking their injuries anymore. But yeah, it's full tank. There's no way you can say they haven't been tanking. Like there's no way.
Nate Sanders said in the chat that the car is overflowing with gas.
Yeah.
Presti filled up the gas tank. And then have you guys seen this video going around on Twitter right now of this woman at the gas station? And she's got the gas pump, but she's using it like it's the car wash, and she's like spraying gas all over the car.
No, I haven't seen that.
I'll find it and I'll retweet it from the pod account and say this is where the tank meter is at, because this woman is like, it's like she thinks it's the wand at like the self-serve car wash that you spray your car down, but it's just the gas tank. It's the gas pump. She's just pouring gas all over her SUV.
That's weird, man.
That's where Sam Presti is at right now. Tayler, do you have any differing opinion there?
No, you have to go full tank, and I'm just going to go ahead and read off the injury report for you all for tomorrow. So far, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, foot out. Darius Baisley, shoulder out. Lou Dort, Josh Hall, Isaiah Roby, concussions out. And Mike Muscala, ankle out.
All my guys getting brain bruises.
We're playing. The Thunder are playing head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening here.
It is interesting. We haven't heard many updates on Baisley's shoulder. Maybe intentional.
It's not real,
right.
Taylor.
And then Lou Dort, I get that. Again, concussion protocol is vague and it takes some players longer than others, et cetera, but Lou's still out.
Concussion is the perfect tank excuse.
100%.
100%. Nobody messes with the brain injury. They're like,
right.
Also,
Is Lou still having symptoms?
Is season 2 Looney Tunes over? Hold on, go put season 3 in. It's okay, Lou. Don't be upset. And then it's like he misses another week.
So, counterpoint though, the Darius Baisley thing. I think if you want to tank even more, you clear him and let him play, and you let Kenny Hustle get the concussion. Right? Like, I don't think holding Baisley out is or is part of the tank, because Baisley just hasn't.
I just think it's interesting. We haven't had any updates on him. I'm curious how serious it is and when does he come back. Same for Shea, because I think even if this was last season and we're to the point where Presti decided to go ahead and go on with this team, see how far they can make it. Let's win games. I think Shea still is probably setting out right now at this point in the season. I think the question is, I think they said that he was going to be reevaluated like mid-April. Mm-hmm. He may come back at that point that were last season, right? But this season, does he sit out until May? And that's what's going to be interesting to see.
He's done.
I think he's probably done too. All right, before we end the tank meter, I got to ask you guys, because this week is a quote-unquote easy week for the Thunder, but then after this, things pick up pretty significantly. But this week, the Thunder have Detroit, Charlotte, Cleveland, and Philly all at home. I want to know your record predictions.
Ooh,
0-4.
there
That
we
would be
go.
ideal. That
Ooh.
would be ideal. You really think 0-4? Taylor, are you going 0-4 as well?
I'm gonna go 2-2.
What?
I see them. I know. I think they're gonna be kind of upset
No.
after these last two. I know, and I
No.
think we're gonna see like, Kenny Hustle come out and drop like 25 or something ridiculous, and
No.
Roby's gonna get out concussion protocol. I don't know. I think they probably end up beating Detroit and probably end up beating the corpse of Charlotte right
No.
now. With-
Let me tell you what's going to happen is the Thunder tip off at 6? Is that a 6 p.m. tip at home?
and then they're
tomorrow?
gonna tank,
That's
get the
strange.
game over, and go and watch.
That typically is
That is
7
weird
p.m.
at home.
like local time. But anyways, the
And then
Thunder are going
watch
to tip
Suggs.
off, and Presti is going to have the Thunder game on one screen and the national championship game on another screen. He's going to see Jalen Suggs, and he's going to like pick up his phone and he's going to call down to Mark Dagnall and say, "Get Kenny Hustle out of the game right now." And he's going to hang up, and then 5 minutes later he's going to call back and he's going to say, "Whoever the hell else is healthy,
Put Poku in at point. Do it.
yeah." So and so's got a sprained toe. Take him out right now, and he's going to hang it up. He is going to want to
The
drop some
championship
games.
game doesn't start. I was looking at that today because it's perfect. I'm excited. The national championship game doesn't start until like 8:20 or something, so we can technically kind of watch both. I mean, I know it'll overlap there barely, but perfect.
There you go. Well, last thing on the tank meter.
Silver said all early games because of the national championship, so they playing for it.
Oh, there you go. The Thunder today on Sunday finally climbed up a spot on the Tankathon rankings as the Chicago Bulls finally got around to winning a damn game. They beat the corpse of the Brooklyn Nets. So Chicago is just a few fractions. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. A few fractions above Oklahoma City, 0.408 to 0.417, half a game up on the Thunder. So Oklahoma City is currently in the 8th spot. They are only one game ahead of Toronto. If they would have lost that Toronto game last week, the Thunder would actually be in the 7th spot. But they're one game ahead of Toronto, 2.5 up on Washington, and 3 up on Orlando and Cleveland. So that 4 spot is still a possibility. I'm going to hit Sim Lottery once on Tankathon just to see what happens.
We're really banking on getting that Houston pick.
And nothing good happened. The Thunder stayed at 8. So we got to hope that doesn't happen on lottery night. But I think the Thunder will continue to climb the board. I think the goal, I think the most realistic spot that you can hope for is 5. Anything above that, I think, is wishful thinking. I think the only one you have a legit shot at is 5. I think 4 is too high. So, all right, guys. Well, let's wrap this bad boy up with a little bit of around the association.
I don't even know where you're sitting at. Like.
All right. So the NBA this week, there's a handful of things that have happened. I just want to run through a few quick ones real quick.
Paul Pierce won.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh! I swear to God, Taylor, I swear to God, if you ruin this buyout joke for me, I'm going to quit the podcast.
I should have known you had something.
Let's just go straight into the buyout market situation, or at least we can get into it later. But before Taylor ruins my joke that I was saving till the end, I was going to say ESPN and TNT working out a buyout contract with Paul Pierce with strippers shaking their booties, and then he tweeted "Good morning" like 3 hours later.
Somebody said
it was like
that one of the
24
strippers was his wife. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know. Like the rumor was he thought he was FaceTiming somebody, but he was Instagram living. So I don't know if that.
Well, you know he had the 2 phones out, right?
Just think about this. This man shit himself on live TV, and that's not his most embarrassing moment in like the 21st century.
He also tried to remember when he tried to do the rocket emoji, and he posted the image of the rocket emoji.
He's so old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's the
Dude
truth, all right.
lit
he
up.
was on fuse. Yeah. Woo! That
What
man.
a guy.
Two people shaking their butts. Taylor, I swear to God, you try to take that joke away from me. He tried to steal it.
I was this close.
Oh man! All right. Well, actual NBA players in the buyout market. Anything surprise you? There's a lot of debates going on right now about how the buyout market is inherently unfair for small market teams. Any big thoughts on any of the buyout stuff? Surprise, Gorgie Jang went to the
That's what I was going to
Spurs.
mention. Went to the Spurs. That
Marcus
was
Aldridge
interesting.
to the Nets when we all thought Miami. Anything jump out at you guys? Anything significant? Anything move the needle?
Nah. No, because like the Nets were already going to win a lot of games with or without LaMarcus Aldridge. They don't need him. He's just a body there. I don't know how much playing time he gets with Blake there too, because Blake, this man been sandbagging everybody in Detroit, saying, "Oh, I'm not athletic. My knees are hurt." And the first game he plays, he jumps out the gym. So like he didn't even want to be in Detroit. It's kind of like Reggie Jackson drop stepping and windmill dunking when he's like actually hurt. And like then people wanted to come after him, and he's like, "Oh, I thought I sucked." And according to Twitter, I was like, "Blake, shut up, you pansy ass! Like, really? That's what you're gonna fall back on?" But no, none of the buyout stuff. It really, nobody even cares. Like, isn't it weird that both LA teams are 3-4 in the West?
I'm not.
It really is.
By
Lakers
sizable
is 'cause of
margins,
injuries,
by
but
3
I'm going to
games.
tell you something. Maybe hot take.
Phoenix is ahead of the Lakers by 3 games and by
I'm
like
not
6 for the
surprised.
Clips.
The Lakers have their 2 best players hurt. That one's excusable. And I just don't think the Clippers are very good.
LeBron
how
just
I
got
feel
hurt
about
just
the
the other
Clippers.
night.
I think that the Clippers
Jazz.
are going to sneak into the second round and then get blitzed.
Yeah,
I
Do you
really
think-
do.
I agree.
You think Utah's for real? Because I don't think they're for real.
I think they're
I
for
think
real
they can
until
make
like
some
the
noise.
to the Western Conference Finals, but like you go up
I
against
think-
a healthy Lakers.
I think we got a chance. If the Lakers don't get healthy quick enough, I think we got a chance of a Utah-Denver Western Conference Finals.
That'd be wild.
I'm gonna tell you this:
Wild.
Utah, along with their fan base, who's we've known is not that great, they get the diabetes sometimes.
Their diabetes get the best of them.
They are going to lose in 6 games in the second round. Can it?
You got Utah losing 6 games in the second? Okay. Okay.
Mark it down. I'll take one of your bets.
I
One of
will.
your
Sure, I'll take that, and I'm putting Denver and Phoenix in the Western Conference Finals. Then
Dang. Okay, well, you pump the brakes, buddy. Like, it's not that serious.
Whoa.
we're firing them off here. Yeah, I don't think any buyout moves have really
No.
moved the needle. That
When
much.
was the last buyout move to really make a big difference, though?
That's a good question. Personally, I think Derek Fisher to the Oklahoma.
I was about to say.
I was gonna
Derek
say Joe Johnson from the Big 3 into the NBA. You know,
Oh yeah,
was
he did pretty good.
that was
Yeah.
fun.
for a good 3
ISO
games,
Joe.
and they said no. Yeah,
That's a good point, though.
We went to
Andre
we went
Drummond's
to a
gonna be
Big 3
interesting.
game before too. That was fun.
That
yeah,
was
I think
fun.
the Andre Drummond one I think is going to prove to be pretty substantial.
can't
If he
play defense.
Can't hurt us.
Can't play defense.
You
Yeah.
won't have to.
Yeah, that's what they're doing right now.
Stay on this side of the floor the entire game.
Other around the association news, we kind of already hit this, but I wanted to ask you guys post trade deadline conference finals picks.
Ooh,
Who do you
Like-
got in the East and the West in the conference finals?
Ooh.
Now that all the dust has settled and really all the moves have been made.
Nets, Sixers,
I would do that too.
Western Conference, Phoenix, Lakers.
Ooh, I like it.
Ooh,
I
Phoenix,
like it.
I like that a lot.
Lakers.
I like
Yeah,
it.
man, because now Devin Booker has a real point guard. I'm telling you guys, last year when they had Rubio, I was like, they're doing really well at the beginning of the season because they have a real point guard. And of course, as time always tells, Rubio just falls apart. And of course, the Suns didn't have as many playmakers. They didn't have Jay Crowder, and they didn't have a decent coaching staff. And now you got CP3 to take over, and then now you have Devin Booker just to actually play shooting guard. And they have DeAndre Ayton there, Michael Bridges. They got a lot of nice dudes and a lot of guys buying into that system clearly where they're just playing really well. And they beat the Thunder by 40-something points. And
Defensively, they've been really good. And when you have Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder to throw on the opposing team's best wing players,
Yeah, it's fun.
that's pretty good.
I just
True.
don't
And
like
Torrey
that they're-
Craig now too.
Yeah, that's true. They had
I
another
don't-
defender.
I don't like that their arena is called like Talking Stick Resort, and I don't like that their mascot is a gorilla. It makes me feel weird.
You don't like
Yeah,
the
that was
gorilla?
random.
The
No.
gorilla's iconic, man.
What's the gorilla have to do with the sun?
Do you like him more than the Spurs Coyote high on speed?
No.
Crack coyote.
I like the coyote because coyotes in West Texas, those fit together. What does the sun? If you put the gorilla on the sun, he'd melt.
You put anything on the sun, it'll melt.
That's what I'm saying. So then why would you not have a sun as your mascot?
You just want some guy walking around in a big old orange circle?
Have you never seen Semi-Pro? They did it.
Well, you know
That
what?
is
I
fair.
still think the gorilla is cool. All right, give me a break.
You think they give him bananas for snacks?
God, I hope so.
Like for potassium because he's running around like crazy? So they don't cramp?
I hope he just goes out at mid court during like a timeout. You know how Rumble will like jump
Go
on
out, yeah.
THUNDR. I hope he just goes out there and
Bunch of bananas.
just beats the shit out of his chest. That would make me so excited. If I was in the
Ready to
arena
go
when that
to war.
happened, I would lose my mind. I'd be like, "Let's go!" All right, Taylor, who are your Eastern and Western Conference Finals predictions?
So East, I'm going the Nets, obviously, but I know you guys really like the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking with Giannis and the Bucks.
Come
All
on,
right.
man.
I'm
They
cool
have
with
that
Come on.
reputation. They've fallen short in the postseason.
No.
I think they're ready. They're ready.
They-
Drew just signed his
No.
extension. Pretty big time. I'm going Bucks Nets, and then I'm going to be rooting for the Suns. But what I think it will be, just based off the regular season, which never tends to really play out in the playoffs, other than like the elite teams. But I'm going to go with the Lakers and the Jazz in the Western Conference
Ugh.
Finals.
I like
And
it.
I think we get Nets Lakers in the championship.
Well, yeah, I agree. I would agree. with
Big
that.
markets. It's rigged.
It's
Fake
rigged.
news.
It's always rigged. It's always rigged.
All right. Well, I had something else planned for the end of the Around the Association. We're going to talk about Space Jam 2, but you know what? I don't want to talk
Ooh.
about Space Jam 2 because I got a better idea. Another
Better
thing that
be
happened
something
around.
good.
Oh, it's real good. Get ready, Kamiar, because I'm coming straight to you.
It better be almost as good as my Paul Pierce buyout joke that
About to
Taylor
pull up the
did.
video.
It is. Another
Okay.
thing that happened this week in the NBA was Kevin Durant got very upset in the DMs.
Oh, about
Rappaport.
Rappaport.
Very
Yeah.
upset in the DMs. And so my question for you, Kamiar, is when has an NBA player got upset with you in the DMs or just on
That
Twitter in
was-
general? Because you got a
Yes.
couple of them, I think.
Come on, man. I feel seen. Well, one
There's
time.
two of them
targeted.
at least, right?
You know what? One time I feel good about this. It speaks to my character. I knew something was up with this guy. It was
I know
while
exactly where you're going with this.
it
one.
was while he was in Portland.
Yes.
I was like, man, Myers Leonard. And this is when like he wasn't a household name for being a racist. But
It wasn't just yelling anti-Semitic
just-
slurs on Call of Duty.
yeah.
He was
And,
just
like,
shotgunning beers.
God. But at one point I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make fun of this man on Twitter because he deserves it. I said, I bet Myers Leonard drinks tea from Starbucks and wears Birkenstocks. And he blocked me.
No reply, nothing. Just the
Nothing.
block.
Just straight up block. And I was like, come on, Myers.
What's he got against Starbucks and Birkenstocks? I mean,
Well,
goodness.
everything apparently. So yeah. And then the other one was Kelly Oubre, former Thunder great Kelly Oubre. You know how his hair is. The ladies love Kelly Oubre, by the way.
That
Do you
is
think
very
the
true.
ladies
True.
do you think the ladies love Kelly Oubre more than white middle-aged women in Oklahoma loved Serge Ibaka?
No. And it's
Okay.
not close.
Yeah, because women in Oklahoma were wilding when Serge was
They
here. But
were.
I can promise you over 50% of this sounds wrong. 50% of the women in Oklahoma, no offense, women, I would have this picture saved too. But Serge Ibaka in the
the
gray
sweatpants.
sweatshorts.
Sweatpants, yeah. That's an iconic picture in Thunder
Cannon.
lore. Yeah, it is. It is. But yeah, it was when
That
Kelly
thing
Oubre's
itself was
hair.
worth a first round pick.
Kelly's oh my god. Kelly Oubre's hair was like in that mohawk sort of thing. His head, the sides were still like shaved, and I was like, this man straight up looks like a llama. So I tweeted at him. I was like,
Is your
hey,
mama a llama?
I said, Kelly Oubre's hair is whack. This dude looks like a llama. And then post game, after OKC actually won that game, he said, you spelled whack wrong. I used WHACK and it's WACK. So
There you go.
he embarrassed me for
Boom, roasted.
I can spell whack the right whack. Several different whacks.
Taylor, have you ever had a famous person in the DMs or on Twitter attack you?
No, I've had some pretty cool I'm trying to remember. I've had some people like reply, maybe something like that, but nothing.
Mark Spears got in my DMs one time.
I remember that
Really?
one as well.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, no, this was a long time ago when they talked about the Oakland Raiders and how they were going to charge $15 per beer in Oakland. I was like, dude, no Oakland fan is going to pay $15 for beer. And like, how can you even afford $15 for a beer? And then he DMs me. He was like, this Oakland Raiders fan can afford $15 per beer. I was like, good for you, Mark. That's good.
I was like, I was putting myself
like,
into that.
This is
I'm like,
weird.
I'm not paying $15 for a beer.
It was a weird situation. It was a weird situation. And so that was it.
I only have
good
a
for him
couple.
for defending his team selling $15 beer.
I had Jeremy Lamb in the DMs one time.
Perk.
I had tweeted with Perk. He was supposed to meet me at Bobo's. And then I got to Bobo's and I waited and I waited and I waited and the dude stood me up. Another fun story. Perk one year did a Black History Month trivia for some really big prize, like $1,000 or something. And one of my buddies got it right and Perk DM'd him and was like, hey, you won. Congratulations, blah, blah, blah. Never sent him a prize. And just ghosted him.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yep.
The good old Kendrick Perkins. He was probably too busy getting his wife out of a fist fight in the nail salon. So,
hey, don't talk
talk
bad about vanity.
You think Perk dressed up in that Catholic boy outfit for Easter today? You know that picture I'm talking about?
When he was a kid, a 6-foot kid.
He was like
12.
6'6", like wearing the full looking like the Pope outfit. It was pretty awesome.
I just love the fact that his child's name is Stone. Like,
I don't
Stone
even know
Cold.
That's a cool name.
That is a cool name.
Perkins.
That is pretty cool. I like that.
Stone
It's
Cold
very original.
Perkins.
All right, guys. Well, let's get out of here. Thank you all for checking out the podcast. If you guys were in the chat tonight, man, we appreciate you. We love seeing you guys interact. If you're listening to the podcast version, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, go drop that 5-star rating. Leave us a little blurb on Apple Podcasts. It will really help us out, helps other people see the podcast as well. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your friends, tell your siblings, tell the guy down the street about the Uncontested. We will be back with you again in about 24 hours after the Thunder take on the Detroit Pistons in a battle for the tank. I think Nick has the post game tomorrow, so you guys can hop on Locker Room and hang out with him live or listen right here on the podcast feed after that one drops. We'll be with you every Thunder game this week, as long as Kamiar doesn't do them and doesn't miss out on getting
chill. God.
You guys have a great start of your week. If you're in Oklahoma, man, enjoy the weather. It's going to be beautiful this week. Warm temperatures, sunny skies.
Love it.
It's not very tanky weather, but hey, we'll take it. And we will see you guys again soon after the Thunder take on the Detroit Pistons. Until then, and as always, Thunder up and tank up. Hashtag fade for Cade.
Suck for Suggs.
That's my favorite one.
That one makes me feel uncomfortable a lot.
It's like that guy on Fire Fest.